Lantrip Players, and welcome to this week's video lesson. Today we're going to be learning about set design. Now, set design is important to theater because it is the physical element that draws the audience into the world of the play. Now let's start off today's lesson by going to some warm-ups. Okay, our first warm-up for today is going to be ma. Ma. What?
Ma.
Ma. Ma. Ma.
Ma. Ma.
Ma.
Ma.
Ma.
Ma.
Everybody. Great job, everybody. Now we're going to go on to our second warm-up. Cool. Okay, guys, now we're going to be playing a game called Environment. So we're going to call out an environment, and then you're going to become a piece of the environment while we create the environment for you all to see. Okay? Ready? Our first environment is a park.
I'm gonna be a tree. I'll be a bench.
I'll be a person sitting on the bench. Our second environment is a theater.
I'll be Romeo.
I'll be Juliet. I'll be the tower. Our last environment is a classroom. I'll be a teacher.
We'll be a desk.
Jude here. Today we're going to be talking to some of the UH's own set designers. We're going to get sort of the process of start to finish on how a set is designed. So we're going to be talking to UH's own Mary.
My name is Mary Schreier, graduate student here at the University of Houston for technical direction, actually, not for scenic design, although I have scenic designed in the past. My process in regard to design is typically when I read a play and I'm a scenic designer, the first question I ask is, this is kind of interesting, is how many doors are in the set? And because that usually tells me how big the set is and how important the doors are. Because a door gives you a sense of space and time and where you are and what you're doing and things like that. Part of being a great designer is being a great listener. I always spend the first design meeting listening to what the director has to say and what they want to convey in the show, and how then I write down buzzwords, things that they've said multiple times in the same setting. Usually it consists of adjectives. People like levels is a big thing that people say in sets and things like that, and that's sort of buzzword for directors and things like that. And so if there are words in a design meeting that they say multiple times, I typically write them down, and then I go into my own conceptual idea of where do I think the show is, who do I think these people are, where are they coming from, where are they going into. It's the same sort of questions you ask as an actor or anything like that. You're just asking it for a different purpose, because you are giving them the sense of space. One of my favorite set designers of all time, his name is Robert Edmund Jones, and he has a book called The Dramatic Imagination. And he talks about, in the book, in one of the chapters, he talks about getting a feel for the show before it even begins, because you can see the set in front of you. And so when you sit down in the audience and you're looking out at what the set is it half finished? Is it supposed to be half finished? Is it abstract? Is it, where are you in the sense of where it is? Is it a tableau on the stage, or is it something that you can be a part of, that you're a living scenery with? So I guess for me, I like to, as a designer, I like to think of quirky, fun things that the director can utilize in a really fun way. But always, it stems always from what the director wants and what they're sort of looking for and the feel that they are trying to go for. So yeah, I think that's a long answer to what is my design aesthetic.
Now that we have our finalized design, we're going to take a tour of a scenic shop at the University of Houston with Mr. Stephen Aguilar. Stephen is one of the theater education majors at the University of Houston. Take it away, Stephen.
Hey, this is our scene shop. The scene shop's where we put together sets, we store tools, we do paint, and many other things. Let's take a look. Our first stop is the tool cage. The tool cage is where we store all of our tools for set building. Here we are. These are our lumber racks. This is where all of our boards live, and if we come look over here, this is where all of our long sheet materials live. Now that we have our materials ready, let's get to work. Next, we're gonna come here. These are our workbenches. This is where, instead of bending down here on the floor and getting all dirty, we can use these workbenches to support our back and have a great place where it's nice and flat to work. When you have projects you're working on or things that you need to be elevated so you can paint on them, you can screw them down to the ground like this and they can be standing up. Or like this. This is our compound miter saw. The compound miter saw cuts pieces of wood that are like this. You can either go down or at an angle. This is the table saw. The table saw is used to cut longer pieces like this. Once the blade starts spinning, all you have to do is push it through. Ow! A splinter! If you ever get a splinter or need first aid in a shop, this is where you will come. This is our first aid kit and our eye wash in case you get something in your eyes. It's always important to wear safety goggles, gloves, and other protective equipment, but this is here just in case. Let's get to painting. This is our paint shop. This is where we store all of our paint, all of our brushes, and some more handy crafting paint materials. And there's also a sink to wash your brushes and wash your hands. Thanks for joining us on the tour of the shop. Can't wait to see you to build our next project.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Now let's pass it over to Miss Stephanie.
Alright everyone, next we're going to talk to Lauren, who is the props master at the University of Houston, and her process on finishing off a set piece.
Hi, I'm Lauren Davis. I'm a scenic artist and props manager here, staff at the production department of the theater, and I take our designs and help make them a reality. Props, I'll be given a list of what is desired, and then I go through and I organize it into something that makes more sense to me. I try to figure out what we have on hand, what we can borrow, and what will need to be purchased or built. For this one show, we're doing a lot of things out of cardboard, so I have images of items that we'll be creating out of cardboard. So we group those together, and then I have a meeting with the design team to talk about size and color and style. And then I also am making a checkout list because we're doing everything remotely now. So I also have to track who has what prop at their house and make sure it gets returned home. Paint-wise is another thing that I manage here. So I get a lot of different designs. Sometimes I get something crazy like this. This was a floor pattern, and I have to figure out how are we gonna do this. And so what I do is I break it down into manageable steps. This was a big pattern. I narrowed it down to 1/4 of this pattern that we would repeat over and over again. And I ended up making a giant stencil so we could essentially paint by numbers to fill it in, and we just did it 4 times. And then I also broke it down into which colors we're gonna use. I talked with the designer to make sure that our colors are on the right track. And then I mixed them all up, and then step by step, we went over it. We started with the light colors and then the darker colors, and then we seal it. So it's all about taking something that seems outrageous and making it a manageable, workable project. Another thing I do is sometimes people give me a design that needs to be modified. For instance, this was an image. It's a rectangle, but we're actually painting it on a square, so I had to modify it into a square shape. I also go through and I'm picking colors. A lot of times I mix my own colors, or I will start with a close color, and instead of buying gallons of every single color, because there's a lot in here, I'll narrow it down to the ones that I can use to create the other colors from. So instead of 20 colors, I'm only getting 10, and I'm using those 10 to create the 20 by mixing them together. I also sometimes get puzzling information, and I have to dig deeper from the designer to get what I need. For instance, I was given this image and this image for walls and a floor, and I had no idea of scale or what the pattern really was. And so after talking to her, she gave me this. This is the idea of the whole wall with scale, and this is the idea of the whole floor she wanted. So then I had to come up with an idea of how to create that, which I ended up doing here. You can see this is the final product. The walls are actually textured. They're painted and textured to look like old concrete. And then the floor was stenciled and painted over. Here's a before shot after. I send progress shots to the designer halfway through the process to see if I'm on track. She wanted it to be darker and more glossy, so we ended up with this. And that all started from these images. So I had to figure out how to apply that to a set. Another thing we do is we work with foam. If you want to turn around, we do 3D objects that we have to, this was built from scratch, and we have to figure out structurally how to build it, how to create these curved parts. So we did a mixture of wood and foam. We will then hard coat it so it's durable, make it paint ready, and then paint it so that it looks like this. So again, it's about breaking things into small, manageable steps, starting with the framework and then building on top of that. You don't want to get overwhelmed by looking at all the little details at first.
Once all the performances are over, then a whole team of people come in and they strike the set. This means that they take everything off stage and get it prepared for the next production.
Today I learned that different environments need different set pieces.
I learned that the shop is way more expansive than I originally thought. And it's cool to see finally a big shop with more to see and more to do.
Today I learned about the scenic design process and how different designers have a different way of creating their designs.
Alright, today I learned that there's a whole team of people that work together on different parts to create a set and to take it apart at the end.
Today I learned that the same story can have different set designs depending on who designs them.
Today I learned that a prop master is in charge of putting all of the finishing touches into a set design.
My favorite part of set design is getting to research all the different time periods that a play could be set in.
My favorite set design process is probably jotting down all your ideas, because I like brainstorming.
My favorite part of the design process is the construction of the sets and painting them.
And my favorite part of the set design process has to be actually getting hands-on and building a set.
My favorite part of set design is when I finally get to a color rendering. I like picking out colors based on what they mean and what looks good together.
My favorite part of set design is whenever the set actually gets built and is put onto the stage.
My favorite part of set design is actually realistically what it is if there is something interesting that I know that the set is going to do or something like that, it's the reaction of the audience seeing it for the first time. I think that would be my favorite part of the set design, is actually getting to experience it with the audience.
I think my favorite part about working with scenery is that it's always changing. It's never the same thing over and over again. So even if I might be painting a wood grain again, it's not the same colors, and it's another puzzle for me to figure out of how this design wants this wood to look as opposed to another show.
My favorite Oreos are chocolate Oreos. Gotta go with the original.
My favorite Oreo is for sure the original chocolate. You can't beat the original.
My favorite Oreos are the golden Oreos.
And then, which do I like better, chocolate or golden Oreos? I'd have to say hands down chocolate.
My favorite Oreos are clearly chocolate Oreos. Anything else is not an Oreo, it's a cookie.
And I know that literally everybody else has said that chocolate Oreos are better. However, I definitely prefer the golden Oreos.
And I prefer chocolate Oreos to golden Oreos because they're way more delicious.
And I always like chocolate. Chocolate is absolutely my favorite.
If you're interested in learning more about set design, click the link in the description for a bonus video with another UH set designer.
Thank you so much for joining us this week, and thank you to our special guests, Mary, Stephen, and Lauren, for telling us a little bit more about set design. We'll see you next time.